It's related to transportation in Delhi. So it was very, very tough, I must say, and we must have done about 100 rounds of meetings, and finally we could get 5 or 6 cities to pull their demand for 5,450 buses. Now, India is very large. Must be understood that we are bigger than 24 countries of Europe, plus another 30,000 kilometers. We have used the power of aggregation in many ways. When the LED procurement was done, when smart meter procurement has been done, when expressways and highways have been constructed, and the power of aggregation will help us to bring down prices very rapidly. So, there are 2-3 key elements. It's very important to understand why there is a green mobility revolution which is knocking on our doors. And India must technologically leapfrog to be the leader in this revolution. Whether we like it or not, this disruption is going to take place. But important thing is that India's process of urbanization has just begun. India will do more urbanization in the next 5 decades. In the next 50 years, we'll do more urbanization than what we've done in the last 5,000 years. And the process of urbanization has ended in Europe, it has ended in America, it ended in China, it has begun in India. And we have to do sustainable urbanization. In America, urbanized on the back of cars. The cars company, bought railway companies destroyed them. But in India, we have to embed our urbanization on public transportation, either railways or roads, and public transportation, to my mind, is key. Cities are to be driven not by cars but by public transportation. And therefore, in America there are 980 cars per 1,000 people. In Europe there are over 800 cars per 1,000 people. In India there are only 20 cars per 1,000 people. So we do not have legacy issues. Our level of destruction will be very much lower. America will find it very difficult to transit to electric mobility. India will find it very easy. You can transform yourself by giving that big jump. And therefore my belief is that new urbanization should be embedded with public transportation. And second important thing is that why electric mobility will be critical, because the cost of battery is falling radically. It has fallen by over 90% in the last few years, in the last 4 or 5 years, and it will come down to below $100 per kilowatt hour in the next year and a half. And when that happens, the initial cost of batteries, initial cost of vehicles will be cheaper than combustion vehicles, as this tender for 5,450 buses is demonstrated. But important thing is that there is a lot of technological disruption which is taking place in the battery segment. It's not just lithium-ion batteries that are getting better in terms of safety, in terms of lasting longer, in terms of more energy efficiency. But there is a huge amount of work that is being done in terms of new technologies of sodium-ion batteries. There are Indian companies in Pune, KPIT, and Reliance is bottom of Faradhan in UK, a company which are all doing path-breaking work. There's a lot of work happening in redox flow batteries and nanowire batteries and metal air. In Log9, which is an Indian startup, has done great work on aluminum fuel cells for mobility. Sequoia has invested in that. And then huge work has been done across lithium metal, solid state, solid batteries. And Mercedes, Benz, Volkswagen have all done a lot of work with QuantumScape, which is a solid state battery company. And so what you are seeing is huge work, and almost 40% of the market is controlled by CATL in China, which is now working on this Kirin battery, which is about 1 million miles over a 16-year lifespan for one battery. 16-year lifespan. But I think battery is one part of this technological disruption. The other is battery swapping, on which budget announcement was made, and which EPL has done a lot of work and will come out with the necessary guidelines and policy guidelines. So battery swapping in the bus segment will make it very easy and quick and fast. And therefore, what you will see is non-flammable, solid electrolytes, more dense, energy-wise, faster charging, greater range, and batteries which can work in extreme weather conditions. So my view has been that the electric vehicle market is going to waiting to explode. Set up in India, the Russia-Ukraine war, the China-Taiwan crisis, has established that localization is a must. We can't become import dependent. And therefore, while FAME envisages 50% local content, I would suggest all manufacturers here to really focus on localization, because that will reduce the cost. What has happened in compact car manufacturing, etc., is that we've been able to localize the entire value chain. So the challenge is that instead of relying on imported components, please make them in India so that the entire value chain is made, and there's reduction of cost and it's easily doable. There's no rocket science in this. Let me assure you, there's no rocket science. I think they're all big companies and they're all capable of doing this. There's also a challenge of relying on imported batteries, which account for almost 40% of the total purchase cost of the vehicle today is the battery cost and import battery. And therefore we came up with the PLI scheme for both battery, and I was really amazed when we wanted to support 50 gigawatt, but we got offers of 130 gigawatt. There's huge demand from both international players, domestic players, everyone in the market went for this production linked incentive scheme. And we need to accelerate, and there are many other players like Tata or Suzuki who did not participate but are doing electric battery manufacturing in India, have their own plans of battery manufacturing. So I think that India will emerge as a battery manufacturing champion. India would represent almost 35% of the global EV battery demand by 2030. And as India's battery manufacturing capability expands and supply chains are established, we can produce both battery cells and packs in India. You need to import only lithium and nickel and cobalt from abroad, which is only 18% of the total cost of the value in the entire battery cell. So 80% of the economic opportunity can be captured in India. So I'm of the view that component manufacturing, battery manufacturing, all should be done here. The last point I want to make is that this entire electric mobility is about convergence of IT industry. IT, and we are a top leader in IT industry. It's about convergence of IT industry with the automobile industry, because electric mobility will be driven by power electronics, it will be driven by artificial intelligence, it will be driven by automation. Now, EV vehicles with a very large value addition of electronics and IT components, and it's very, very important that the world's finest IT sector of India should play a key role in incubation and innovation and R&D of the electric mobility revolution. This issue of cooling has been discussed at the highest level, and the government wants this cooling to be pushed. And in fact, we are truly delighted that there's a lot of political leadership at all levels to aggregate demands from all the states and push for 50,000. In fact, my personal view is that even 50,000 is low. We should go and target for a lakh of buses. Because the reason for that is that today in India, there are if you look at the Indian cities, there are 320,000 buses by public and private companies. 320,000 buses, all ramshackle. We have been able to improve the quality of life of our citizens by a huge push by the government in terms of electrification, in terms of roads, in terms of housing, in terms of aspirational districts. So many things this government has done in terms of digitization led by PM. The Prime Minister has driven many of these things. Now, if we want to make a major transformation, we need to improve the stage carrier fleet. That is important. And there is a huge opportunity which exists in transforming these buses, 320,000 buses. We should just push for electric buses there. And the challenge is to move from procuring buses to actually owning and operating, shifting from owning to operating these buses on a contract basis for a fixed fee over 15 years, 12 years, 15 years basis. And that would require us to have, very strong contact. The contract element is very important in this. The challenge is that on the other side, the contract has to be done by the state transport undertakings, sir. And the state transport undertakings are very financially weak. They are all in terrible shape. So how do you strengthen the state transport undertaking so that the person providing services, if it is Ashok Leland, if it is Tata, if it is anybody else providing, they need to get payment on a regular